Hey, what's up, Roxstars? So this is a special top of the blogs. Actually, this is the top of the blogs of 2020. I don't normally do a recap show because it's usually a lot of stories that I just don't really remember. And usually I'm just ready to kind of end the year because it's always Christmas, birthday, New Year, and I'm not focused enough. But this time I was like, Roxanne, come on, put the energy there. Go on and get the people what they want. Go on and come up with this top 10, 20 list, 2020 list, okay? So I didn't put them in any special kind of order where I'm just going to just tell you what my list of things were, and we'll just talk about it a little bit, okay? So let's get to that now. I think that the biggest story of 2020 definitely is the pandemic that we have found ourselves in. That is because of a novel coronavirus that started in Wuhan, China, immediately, quickly spread from China all over the world. And now millions and millions of people have had the virus. Many people have died. A lot of people have been sick from this. People have been affected financially. People have been affected physically, mentally, emotionally. It has been the most taxing attack on the world that I have ever seen in my life. And as we go into 2021, nobody can really say that the virus is slowing down. Nobody can really say that it is on the path to being eradicated. I mean, I know that we have the vaccine coming, and that people are taking the vaccine, but I don't know, you guys, until shit starts to really slow down, because when you look at the maps and when you look at the numbers, it's rising and rising and rising. It is hard to imagine that it'll just be halted. So I feel like we still got a good year, at least, of us being in this unknown coronavirus haze, and that's unsettling. But and especially when you think about now, they're talking about there's a new strain of the virus that has shown up. I think they said that the new strain has shown up here in the United States and Colorado. We don't really know how the vaccine works with this new strain. They haven't even really been giving it much attention because they're trying to get people to focus on taking the vaccinations that they have out now. Yeah, coronavirus is just the biggest deal ever. Like, it's the biggest deal ever. Okay, it has affected our lives in every aspect, whether or not you're working from home, you know, whether or not your children are being schooled, educated from home. People don't get together anymore. I mean, concerts, music concerts, and big gatherings, you know, where thousands of people is not happening. It affected our sports teams, from basketball to baseball to football to soccer to all the major sports that you can think of, been put on the hold, or, you know, now they are actually back playing, but they don't have the audiences that they had. And there's like all this strenuous looking at keeping the athletes healthy. I mean, it's just everywhere. Businesses have been affected. So many small businesses have succumbed, and even some big businesses have succumbed to COVID-19. It has thrown our country into a recession. People don't have any money. People don't have any food. There are more people that are in lines at food banks and just trying to get free food. Some of those people have never ever asked for any help or free food like that. It is foreign to them. People don't, you know, they've been evicted or they don't have anywhere to live. They can't pay their rent. Homelessness has gone up. Like I said, mental health has been sacrificed. People are going through it. Alcohol, domestic violence, just, yeah, coronavirus has been bad. It has been bad. There have been things that have come out of coronavirus. There's been fallout that has been positive, and we'll talk about that later on in the video. But for the most part, I can't think of anything that has ever changed the scope of the world, not just America. We're not talking about, this ain't first world problems. This is all over the world itself problems. That coronavirus, I can't think of anything that coronavirus has not affected. The travel industry, people can't go anywhere. People are stuck at home. Can you think of any one thing that has not been affected by coronavirus? I can't think of anything. It's just that big. It's so big that it's hard to imagine that it would ever be gone. But that is definitely the hope, you guys. We can't just keep going on like this. Biden and Harris have said that this is probably the biggest thing that their administration will have to face as they come into the office of 2021. I mean, they got a shit show that they have been bequeathed. Okay, they got a lot of shit that they're going to need to do. And that's why it's important that the Senate, we can get the control in the Senate, because it's a lot that needs to happen. And we already know that it's going to be a stalemate. It's going to be a traffic jam in the Senate if if it's not pulled off here in Georgia. But yeah, that coronavirus, child, it is a fucking mess. I can't say that enough, but I'm sure you guys have got the picture. So that is the biggest story of 2020. It probably has a lot to do with the rest of the stories that I'm going to tell you in this video, but that's the main one. Another big story, I guess this is sort of like politics, but we'll go on and throw this in, was when YSAP was impeached. People were excited when he was impeached because many of us think that impeachment means that you are put out of the office. But with the most recent impeachments, when we think of Richard Nixon and we think of Bill Clinton was not removed from office. Okay, they voted to keep him in even if he was impeached. And Richard Nixon ended up resigning. Okay, so when it came to YSAP being impeached, I was positive, because the Senate is ran by the Republicans, for sure that they were not going to impeach and, put him out or put him in jail. How does that look for their own Republican SAP? But yeah, he was impeached, you guys. Once they didn't vote to get him out of there, that seemed to have bolstered his already super large ego, and he just seemed to kind of feel like he was invincible. And if that little thing called coronavirus did not happen, I think that he probably would have been invincible, and I think that he definitely would have won the presidency, because he was flying pretty high right after the impeachment, and when they had decided that they weren't going to find him guilty, so or put him in jail. So everything happens for a reason, and coronavirus, while it has been quite the tragedy, it did affect YSAP's presidency in the negative, if you ask me, because we found out that his administration dropped the ball and allowed for that virus to come into the United States, did not try to stop it. He out here golfing and traveling and having a good ass time when they had reports that the virus was here. So while he was flying high after that impeachment, like, coronavirus started to bring it down, and it just continued to go down because he just was spiraling, and it was clear that he was lying, and it was clear that people were dying, and it was way more serious than they were trying to take it. And by the time they tried to take it somewhat seriously, it was just a shit show by then, because we had already lost control of trying to get control of it. So yeah, the impeachment, it was the beginning of a pretty bad year for YSAP, with it culminating in our next story. All right, you guys, so the third big story of this year is the Biden-Harris win. Child, I ain't never been so fucking vested in an election than I was with Biden-Harris. I was so determined to get the word out to you guys that you had to vote to get YSAP out of office. I had enough, like many of you guys had enough, of his stupidity for 4 fucking years, the chaos and everything else that had been going on, him running the United States like it's a fucking reality show. We was just done. And, we all tuned in. We all went to vote. We all tuned in and watched the election results. And for a week, people sat on pins and needles trying to wait and see who was going to be named the new president-elect. And, you know, Biden and Harris was able to pull it out. Pulled it out by a pretty good margin, but when you start to break it up into states, you know, then it was not quite as large, it seemed, as it was. But when it's all said and done, they won by quite a bit of votes ahead. And there was no way for YSAP to win. Of course, YSAP will tell you that the election was stolen from him. He's still giving Georgia all kind of grief. And I think that's because of the runoff that's going on here. There's still a lot of eyes that's on Georgia. So YSAP, you know, if a whole bunch of eyes is on Georgia, and this is a man who loves attention, then of course he is also going to be in Georgia, on Georgia, you know, and everything else that's happening here. But yeah, that Biden-Harris win, you guys, when I tell you the relief that was felt when we knew for a fact that Biden-Harris won, we saw it on the news. I mean, the people was in the streets like a fucking dictator had been overthrown. People were celebrating that entire day. COVID be damned. People had their mask on and everything, but honey, they was in them streets and they was celebrating. And I've never seen anything like that for any president. I mean, and there's been some presidents as of late who were not favorites. Bush, you know, because coming off the heels of Katrina and all that, people were, even though he wasn't up for re-election. But, you know, there's been other people that have lost, and we ain't never got out in the streets and was getting drunk and celebrating the way the people was doing there. So, you know, that should let you know for a fact that YSAP was not liked. But we also can't forget that with the Biden-Harris win, roughly somewhere between 40 and 50% of the country agree with YSAP. So while we are really happy that Biden-Harris is in place, you know, we can't get too comfortable because there is a disconnect between the people of the United States, and we can thank YSAP for bringing that disconnect and that chasm, you know, to the forefront and make it much bigger. But we're hoping that the Biden-Harris team will be able to bridge some of that gap. It'll be much easier if we can get control of the Senate. But yeah, Biden-Harris win was big. I don't even have to, you know, tell you all how big it was, especially as a Black woman who is now going to be in the office, who's at the table, who I believe will have more responsibility shown on her because of the fact that she is a Black woman. I'm sure she's up for the job. I'm sure that was the job that was presented to her and that she was willing to take that job, and she had been voted in and, you know, making history. So the Biden-Harris team is making history. Biden-Harris has made it a point to try to make his team more diverse and fair so that more people can be a part of the discussion. And I admire Biden and Harris for doing this. And we just hope that some shit can get done. We hope that some shit can get done. I don't even know if YSAP did do some things. I'm sure YSAP has done some things. Most of it hasn't been for the benefit of our people, but I mean, YSAP has looked out for the rich for sure. Like, you guys got, you know, they tax issues. He took care of them on their taxes. Middle class is struggling, honey, and shows that he don't give a fuck about the middle class, which is the majority. You know, everybody always talks about him standing up to China. That is probably going to be the one thing that he can, you know, because he's always like, I did China, I told China, you know how he is, child. Those are the things that I can think of that he probably has done. I think he's worked with criminal reformation and has listened to some people trying to, for whatever reason, help these people get out of jail. So, I mean, there are some things that he will be kind of known for. But for the most part, child, oh, wait, I'm supposed to be talking about Biden-Harris, huh? Well, all I can say is I'm glad and I'm looking for a new day. I'm looking forward to something different than what we have been doing. I'm not sure what the different will be, but just this, what we got right now, got to go. So yeah, Biden-Harris, their win, I think that was probably one of the biggest stories of 2020 as well. Another big story of the year, which doesn't sound like a big story anymore because this came out right at the beginning of coronavirus, and coronavirus was just overshadowing everything. But as a result of the virus, the 2020 Olympics was canceled. That is when all of the nations all over the world go and, compete on a sportsman level. And it was undone. It was no more. That was not happening in 2020. And I don't know of another time that the Olympics was canceled. If it was canceled, I guess it would be back when we were having wars, World War I or II. But it's generally unheard of that they would cancel the Olympics. And it was pushed forward. The Olympics will be happening, but for 2020, null and nada on that. Now, the Summer Olympics actually is going to take place starting Friday, July 23rd, 2021, and they end on Sunday, August 8th, 2021. Now, the Olympics have always been on an even year. I'm not sure if they're going to go back to, if it's going to be 4 years in between the 21s and now we're going to be on the 5s or, the odd numbers or whatever. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but as of now, it's going to be 2021 and it will be happening in Tokyo. I know there were a lot of athletes who have been preparing all their lives for that moment. And I guess it either works two ways. Either they have more time to prepare to make their bodies ready for the Olympics, or they can come up with fatigue and frustration over the fact that they were ready for the 2020 and couldn't do anything and now have to wait to 2021 and, possibly suffer some sort of injury or something from them preparing and it not happening for them. So I guess it just depends on the way that you look at things. But yeah, you guys, the Olympics, which I watch every year. I love the Summer Olympics probably more than the Winter Olympics, but I do enjoy watching the Winter Olympics as well. But like I said, coronavirus, child, it's affected every fucking thing, everything. And the Olympics is also an example of that. That's another event that I'll be happy that we can get back to normal, because the Olympics just feel normal to the world. Okay, you guys, another huge story is all of the deaths that happened in the United States. The biggest story for me was Kobe Bryant dying in a helicopter crash along with his daughter Gigi and 6 other people, I believe, that were on the helicopter, as well as the helicopter pilot. They all died as they crashed into the side of a mountain in the Malibu Canyons in Los Angeles, California. And just one of the most impactful and affecting deaths ever. I can remember it like it was yesterday, my son calling me and telling me, and me physically about to faint while I'm walking my dog. It was just unbelievable. And still to this day, it is unbelievable. And if I talk about it long enough, I can probably get a tear or two squoze out. But such a huge, tremendous loss to the basketball world for sure. That was the one time that we saw basketball players, they couldn't even play. They were so affected and crying. And the NBA finally had to just put a pause on it, because this is how much that this man has affected that community. But not just the basketball community, just people in general. You guys, I'm getting choked up. I'm getting choked up. Oh, it still is heartbreaking. It's still heartbreaking to see pictures of Kobe, and it's just terrible. Let me just stop that one. My heart goes out to his family, who lost 2 people at once. The other families that was on there, some families was wiped out. Others, their parents are gone, leaving behind little children. It was such a tragedy, you guys, just a tragedy. Ain't nobody feel like all this. So I'm just telling you guys what a monumental And really probably we should have realized that 2020 was going to be fucked up after that, because that's what our 2020 started out with, and it was downhill from there. We had many other people though that died last year, so I tried to write down or just put all the names that I could think of here. Let me read the list to you guys. We had Chadwick Boseman, we had Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we've had Congressman John Lewis, we had Regis Philbin, Kelly Preston, Naya Rivera, Alex Trebek, Bill Withers, Pop Smoke, Kenny Rogers, Eddie Van Halen, Little Richard, Roy Horn, Shad Gaspard, Chi-Chi DeVane, Sean Connery, Bobby Brown Jr., Natalie DeSalle Reed, King Von, C.T. Vivian, Cliff Robinson, Fred Willard, B. Smith, Andre Harrell, Tommy Tiny Lister, Jazz Waters, Betty Wright, Jeanette Dubois, Carol Sutton, David Dinkins, Ashley Miss Minnie Ross, Dr. Joseph Lowry, Esther Scott. You guys, the list goes on and on and on. I mean, I know people die every year, but 2020 just felt like it was a substantially larger amount of people who died. That might not be true, but it surely does feel like it. Every time I turned around this year, because most of those people that I mentioned in you know, when I was reading off those names, most of those people that I did talk about on top of the blogs. So yes, it was disheartening to have to report on those stories time after time and video after video, and just kind of put another bleak outlook on 2020 already, where we're just dealing with so much other shit. There are other people that died this year that I couldn't think of, so if there are more people that you know, you can add to that list, and you guys can do that in the comments below. I just want to give a collective rest in peace to all of those people, all of the people's families that were affected by that, the friends, the fans that were left behind because of that, trying to put the pieces together and just kind of wonder, why is all these things happening? Because some of those deaths were just senseless, and some of them, you know, some people were sick, but then some, like Kobe, was just, you guys. So yeah, those are the names that I could think of that died in 2020. Like I said, if you know more, then please put those in the comments section below.